Welcome to K-Wave 6 Radio, your show for all things positive. Good evening and welcome to K-Wave 6 Radio. Sorry about the delay in getting here. Sometimes it just seems that Blog Talk and me don't want to get along. I was trying to get in for the last 15 minutes and I finally got here. So anyway, show's going to go. Today I have two guests that are coming back live because you may be asking, why am I running, if you will, same guest again and again and again. But there is a good reason for it, because unless you've got your head stuck in the sand, we are in a time where we can see very big changes coming about, such as even this past weekend in Italy. They got 100 inches of snow, or if you're running on the metric scale, 2.4 meters of snow dumped on them in less than 24 hours. As you've probably read in the promo for the site, a couple of days after Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, made his speech with the U.S. Congress, Iran put out pictures and information about their surface-to-surface missiles, and they're upgrading some, and they're going to be ready by the end of this month. So we see a lot of things coming about, and even though the show is not intended to frighten you, it may end up just frightening you, but also it's there to help you to figure out, to understand and how to deal with what will happen and what may happen. So with that, I'm going to bring on my first guest, which is Chad Meek, who is a very accomplished astrologer. He's been doing astrology for, over 25 years. And Michelle Vaughn, who we're going to have to get on in a little bit because it seems like I can't call her. So hopefully, if you're listening, Michelle, give us a call, come on in, and we'll start the show. But anyhow, Chad wants to basically break the ice anyway, and he has some things that he's going to tell us about, his point of view from the astrology. These are people, Chad and Michelle are people that I know and trust. I've known them for quite some time. So we're not talking about people that are going to be wishy-washy. They're just going to tell you how they know it. They're going to own what they say, and we'll move from there. In the second hour, we will take calls, provided Blog Talk doesn't screw us up, and we will be answering questions and conversations, and we just ask that you keep this, as the subtitle of my show goes, your show for all things positive. So with that, welcome to the show, Chad.
Hello, Kirk.
Chad, you there?
Yeah. Yes. Can you hear me? Kirk?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you. There seems to be...
I'm breaking it out, huh? Let me move. Let me move over here. Let me see if that helps. Okay, let me get closer to the source of the phone. Maybe that'll help. Hold on. Okay, it might be a little better. Okay. Does this sound any better by chance? Gosh.
Yeah,
dang.
Sounds great now.
Okay, good. Let me turn off this computer, which is big and noisy, and I'll just have to sit back and relax and kind of go blind. I was actually at another spot in my house on my comfortable couch and with my computer, and I thought I'd just kind of lay horizontally and speak on the phone, but that didn't work.
Yeah, sometimes that doesn't work.
Yeah, it's interesting what you were mentioning earlier. I'm one of those extraordinarily direct psychic astrologer. I'm different. I read a lot of astrological publications naturally, and I listen to other people, financial astrologers, and most of the time after I read what they have written, I don't know what they're saying. I mean, I don't know what position they're taking. And that bothers me. I really, and it's like this. And I've made a career of telling people exactly what I'm looking at through these oracles and what I'm channeling in. That is my gift. Is a lot of people can look at the numbers and the various degrees, charts, angles, etc., but one of the benefits that I've had from, of course, my extraordinarily weird childhood and various things that occurred to me is that I am always looking for clarity, and I'm looking to tell people clear things that they can understand and relate to. And I try not to get off into too much minutia, which in my glitzier days, I was Mr. Techno, astrologer. I would come up with 150 different things, and then basically after people would shake their head and say, "And what did you just tell me?" And so I thought, okay. And as I got older, I thought, okay, I'll just be more direct and just say, okay, this is what I'm looking at, and here it is. And I'm not. And if I'm right, which usually I am, it's based on probabilities. It's not absolute, but I'm probably right based on what I'm looking at. And now I have a habit of when I go on radio shows, like I've done, so many this year, and I've talked about this aspect of a couple of have been with you and other and various shows when they've asked me to forecast. I've just told them exactly what I've seen. So I guess the segue into that, to the guest, as far as I have been looking for this event, and we have talked about this for some time, around this March 14th date that sprung up to me actually last summer. Yeah, March 14th, yeah, which is this Saturday, coming up this Saturday. So you're still hearing me, right? Still hearing me, Kirk?
Yeah, I'm still you. Yeah, I'm here. Michelle called in and then she hung up, so I was about to pull her in on the phone call.
Okay.
Somebody else just. Wait a minute. Somebody else is trying to call in, so I'm just going to say right now we're not taking any calls from our audience until the second hour. So someone is calling from 303 area code, which I believe is Denver. So if you can, just wait until the second hour. Right now we're just trying to get Chad and Michelle on the line, and we're going to run from that for the first hour. Anyway, go ahead, Chad.
Yeah. So at any rate, one of the first things that I noticed, and I look at various charts, and I'm always looking for the deers running from the fire. That is a first clue, and usually the financial markets start giving me a real good clue of what may be happening by what they're doing. Okay, and so and it's a great democracy in the markets because everybody's voting with their money. Okay, so that gives me a good picture. So even last summer, I said, "Oh my God, it looks like the dollar is going to make a gigantic comeback." And I saw these various aspects, and then I started to figure out, well, why? How come? Okay, and so I've seen a lot of these things, and one of the things I've been looking at, and we're actually within hours away from the exact aspect, which Mars and Uranus are going to become conjunct in Aries, which is an extraordinarily explosive aspect. So it's really going to hit very, very hard, very, very quickly. So we may be very, very close to something that is going to occur, but it has been going on like for instance, Russians have poured more artillery and tanks into the Ukraine. They're just running across the border right now as we speak. And of course, the U.S. has been providing its own weapons, very, very aggressive weaponry to the Ukrainians in order to defend them, and that's been going on here for the last couple of weeks. So I actually could see this whole prelude to this Mars conjunct, and now not only do we have Mars conjunct Uranus and Aries in a cardinal sign, which is an action aspect, we have it making a square or dynamic, hard aspect to the planet Pluto, which is actually government. So we have all these traces of war, explosive things going on that are up in the sky. And, of course, to top all this stuff off, and I posted this on my Facebook, on the Giant Rock Movie Facebook, we also have this gigantic eclipse that is occurring around the 20th that is going to be visible in Europe. So you start putting all these different things together, and it's, for me, because I've looked at these things, I know how they work. It's not like something, I still have to study. I still have to buckle down. I really have to look at things 15 different ways and sideways. But it is gearing up to something very, very terrific. Now, again, to the audience who's listening, a lot of this stuff I believe is predestined, preordained. I think that the various puppet masters have essentially contaminated or adulterated our financial system. That really, I think logically, the only thing that can get us out of this, like so many times in the past history of the United States, is war, is some sort of conflict. We've been a nation at war forever. So when all else fails, go to war. So anyways, that's the forecast. Now how can we mentally adjust to that? And that's something that's very, very critical, and I think that kind of segues into what you're trying to say. We don't want to be negative, but we want to be realistic. We want to let people know exactly what's going on so they can adjust mentally their vibratory frequency. So if you're too tied up to the system, the financial system, and it could be on all kinds of ways, vis-a-vis credit ratings and things like that, and things that seem to have taken so much priority in our lives, well, perhaps now, maybe that's a time that we don't, that we kind of get back more into the basis of the things that are important to us, which are our, of course, family and friends and things like that, and hopefully have a deeper appreciation for those relationships that I really believe that all this materialism has systematically divided us and torn us apart and made our view myopic. Instead of looking at this bigger, larger pictures with our fellow man, nature, the animals, the things like that. I don't want to get too esoteric because I understand everyone's trying to make a living and etc. But I think what's happened is the balance has shifted so far into this materialism that people are really starting to get their brains absolutely washed into thinking into more of a robotron or robotic mentality. So, anyways, these are things that come. And incidentally, in my book, which gosh, I'm trying to get it formatted up on Kindle and get it going. I've completed it. I just need to go through another edit and then get it formatted. But in my book, I talk about this artificial intelligence that seems to be prevailing. And I believe I see how this occurs to all of us, and it just goes bit by bit by bit. It's not like overnight you become a robot or a depersonalized machine. It seems like what's been happening is that bit by bit, year after year, that this has been the thing that's been occurring not only to our children and to everybody. And I think that nature, thank God, Mother Nature and our Mother Earth has a soul and has the ability to throw this around and to throw it off. And I am so when we look at it through these lenses and we look at the events, that we think, well, okay, how could this possibly be good? But the trajectory that we have been heading as a human race has been completely, like I said, adulterated and turning into a black hole. So what's the alternative? And yes, this is going to be a huge hangover. It's going to, and this isn't just a, this is not just a regular. This is also too. This is not your regular correction, and that you go buy more. This is not that time period. This is a time that's going to take us probably the next 3 or 4 years into a real good cleansing program. And some people who've been standing on Mount Olympus are going to hit the ground a little harder than, say for instance myself or you, Kirk. I think we're going to fall out of maybe a one-story thing, and yeah, it's going to hurt. But we're not going to fall out of a 19-story building and hit the pavement. So yeah, I look at this thing as an evolutionary progression, and I don't look at it as a negative. The question comes down to is how we as individuals are going to prevail through this, and that's what's important to know. So from that tactic, I can see what's happening in the stars. Yeah.
I think we have a little time delay here, but I just wanted to ask you because I think it was on the last show, and Stash was talking about, if you remember Stash, he was talking about, you said you do fractal something with your, you know what I'm talking about? You can explain it because I'm not an astrologist and I don't go there. So,
fractals. I work with fractals. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Can you explain how that works so, maybe our listening audience can understand a little bit more about it other than just looking up into the heavens and getting your information from there? How does that work?
Yeah, well, okay. Really what this is, and there have been books out there that have been written by people, by doctors of physics who actually relate astrology to quantum physics, okay, and really, there's a lot of similarities now, and it comes like this. It's not absolute, and again, we talk about when you get into quantum physics, you're dealing with some self-directive that you can emphasize as far as that, and if you want it bad enough, you can create just about anything. It's not the stars, they compel. They don't command. What they do is they present a circumstance, a pattern up in the sky that's up there, okay? And you can pick all kinds of them. Again, a Mars conjunct Uranus, and there is, in fact, your choice of, okay, so what are you going to do with this? Are you going to use this to maybe, are you going to use it to go to war? Or are you going to use this to look at the whole ramifications of going to war and saying, okay, I pass on going to war? Well, there's a high probability, I would give it 85%, that we're going to go to war, okay? But along with that, there is grace, and that when you get into various theories, in the quantum world, it gets very tricky because I think that I've come to the conclusion is that we control a little bit of it, but we don't control it. Obviously, we don't control it all. So we do have some influence, but it's primarily on how we react to it. And I guess trying to put together a metaphor, as far as that, I'm trying to think of one that would fit as far as a reaction. A typical reaction is you're on the road and a guy cuts you off and he makes you really angry. Okay, so your choice is one of two things. to just blow it off, or basically get entangled with him. And most people predominantly blow it off because they don't want to get out and fist fight somebody or get in that kind of alteration. So the more probable thing is say, yeah, that was a close call, knock on wood, but I'm not going to take the bait. Okay, and that would be a great, I guess, metaphor to a symbolism to basically say what is happening in there as far as, yes, you had the astrological setup that created that challenge or that incident, but then again, you as a human being chose, okay, how to deal with that. And that is what we're talking about here. And so versus, vis-a-vis, I was, I had to get out of the car and I had to go into fisticuffs with this guy. No, you didn't. So that would be one. That would be one example as far as how you may be. It may show a circumstance, but it really is up to you how you, say, for instance, deal with the challenge. And so that's the beauty. That's the beauty and the curse. Obviously, the universe is all mathematic. It's all set up on a cyclic basis. I believe it started with the Big Bang. It's just unfolding, and what it does is it presents you your life and life challenges. And again, it's up to you to deal with it. A case in point would be right now is if you knew that there was going to be a huge water shortage, if you knew ahead of time, then it would be a good time to store up on some extra water or even some extra food. I mean, that would be the logical thing to do it. So versus being blind or listening to the television or the talking heads tell you how things are going to turn out. I think the blessing about all of us is that we innately know. We have this sense. We definitely know what's going on, and I think, and that's what's so interesting about like you would, I guess, separate from what I was doing with the planets and the transits and things like that, you would come up with this March date yourself, just by I guess just listening to your own sense, your own inner voice. Yeah, so, I mean, what I do is I plot it, I see a client will come in, and they'll say, "Oh gosh, I'm feeling absolutely insane. This is really, in fact, I'll get that quite often, and what'll happen is invariably I will look at their chart and I'll see these different aspects, and what usually occurs is a very tight aspect perhaps between Mercury and Mars or even Neptune. Neptune would be a planet of somewhat a little bit confusion. Mercury rules your mind, and Mars is aggression, represents aggression. So you would be, symbolically confused, and I'll look at it and it'll actually track what you're actually feeling. Now, one of the real beauty parts about when I talk to people and I say, okay, oh, wow, this is what's happening here, and invariably there'll be exact aspects by the time they get to me, and I'll say, this is going to pass. This is going to pass over. You are going to feel better. Yeah, you may feel like ripping your hair out today, but within 2 days, you're not going to feel like this. Change the channel. You're going to, it's going to be okay. A case in point is, and I'm not exempt also, too, people always think, well, gee, you have all this information, so, aren't you like, don't you have the ability to, make, get around this? Most of the time I do, unless it's a long, drawn-out thing like I've just been experiencing myself. I've had a progressed moon, sit on top of a progressed Saturn, which essentially, when I talk about progress, I move the planets up. Say, for instance, I'm 56, so essentially I move them up 56 years in advance to make them current, and I'll look at an aspect. So lately, what's been happening is I have been, drawn down. I mean, as far as my energy levels have been drawn down by other outside people that have been really kind of kicking me in the shins, and it hurts. But I guess part of the benefit of that is that, and I was telling my wife, I said, listen, this is not going to last forever, and even right tonight, that aspect is exact. Which would, in fact, that aspect would almost take, I think, 27 years to occur. So by time, it's actually coming to culmination right now. So I will have some breathing room. I know by experience that within a week or so, I'm going to have some breathing room, and I'll be able to maneuver. I'm in the middle, as you know, of making a movie, and there is a lot of egos involved. In fact, last night I really was tough on a guy because he's worth $100 million, and he wants to, he feels he can dictate everything about my intellectual property, which I have other concerns about it. And I just flat out said, there's no way I could do this, and I got a little angry, a little testy, and I was telling you earlier as far as, I got so frustrated. I really kind of blew off some steam on him, and that's not me. I mean, that's not who I am. But it was just the build-up, and I had to, let out some steam on that whole thing, and now I feel a lot better. But
welcome to the movie business.
There you go.
Oh
yeah, there's Michelle.
Tell me about it. Yeah. Welcome to the movie business. You'll learn how to navigate that. You will. But yeah, it's probably a new thing for you, but you'll learn. And blowing off steam, you'll do that because there's just a lot of inflated egos, and that's also why I pulled out of the business, because I couldn't handle what I was subjected to every day. I saw it on such a huge level, and I work now with actors and celebrities and things like that, and I even hear it from some of them, and it takes a toll on you. If you don't have the personality to ground it, you're gonna hit heads, because everybody wants to put their creative point out there, and they're adamant about it. So there has to be a bending, and you're also dealing with large amounts of funds and money, and
sure.
And whoever's holding the money feels like they have the creative power, but it's not true. So there's all these different ideologies that go along, and collaborations, and films will get to a certain point, and then they'll just fall apart. They'll just go back on the shelf for another 10 years until the boys and girls decide to be able to creatively work together appropriately. It's the nature of the beast regarding that.
Well, I was going through some files today, cleaning out some files of mine. Thank God I was able to do that today. And I was looking at, and I have these files, and there was this one very, this is a Hollywood agent, and I kept their emails, and this is one of the uglier sides of the business. That I kept the email, and I actually got a direct threat by an agent of a producer that we had parted companies. We'd actually had intellectual differences, creative differences, and I literally got a death threat via email on stationery. And only in Hollywood could you, So I mean, people don't understand what that is, and and so I've been kind of conditioned as far as this. It's funny, people say, "Oh my gosh, Mel Gibson, he went absolutely nuts." I actually can at different points, as far as during this whole process, I've actually been able to relate to him as far as how you can literally get so frustrated and what have you, as far as within the industry. But again, that's part of the whole. My whole astrology was essentially cleaning out some of this garbage that has that has essentially been sticky on me. So I was able to reformulate and get rid of that garbage that was going on.
Good.
But that hurts. The other thing too is those events are very bruising, because what happens is if you're a creative person like I am, and what I did is I wrote a screenplay, wrote a book, and so you put your heart and soul in this, and then you have somebody come in and want to destroy that whole joy.
Oh, yeah, that's so prevalent in Hollywood.
It is, but the discussion topical last night was my brand. I was being criticized. Okay, what I do is what I do. Okay, who I am is who I am. What I'm talking about, what I do, and what I've been doing for my clients, I will be doing this until the day I die. So I'm not going to twist and turn or bow down and take who I am in order to appease the money people. And that was the conversation that we're going to get. I'm not going to change. I mean, I'm going to be straight up. I'm going to tell them exactly what's going on. And just because I'm metaphysical and just because I have a spiritual outlook does not give anyone license to trample all over me, okay? And that is one thing, and that was what he was saying. And I said, hey, wait a minute, you want to see ugly? You want to bring that monster I've been working on my life to me?
You
don't want to go there.
He's still there, right.
You always have to stay true. It's about staying true to yourself. This is something that you have worked on. You have put your heart and soul into it, and then the money comes in and says, but wait a minute, we want to make it this way because we feel financially this is where the audience will be captivated. So basically, they rape you on some level.
It is.
Yeah.
And actually, you're seeing a lot of people. I was watching the movie Chef, and I thought it was really it was a cute show. I mean, and it was really done with almost zero. The guy who actually directed and produced Iron Man, he'd had enough of all the big budget. So he got a few of his actor friends, and they put together this very cute show called Chef. I don't know if any of you guys have seen it, but it was very interesting in that the style that he actually had produced it. It was by far, it wasn't the slick, Hollywood production, and its budget, I think, was something like, roughly, I mean, it wasn't that big a budget, and it made money. But I was listening to his interviews, and I forget what his name is, but he said he was happy doing it, and as far as that. But one of the things I've been trying to get through is to people through this. Don't worry about me. Stick the story. The story is this has a potential giant rock. It's based on true events. It's real people, and it literally comes down to this facts. As far as the whole thing is, sometimes fact is stranger than fiction, and some of the events that I've got in there, whole thing, there's a whole color, but again, the soul remains in the story. Versus having Star Wars, with Darth Vader and all that stuff, there is UFOs, but it's actually more in real term with real people with real issues, and they all get better. And that's what's really important is that you want to show your characters who are endeavoring to get, that are being challenged immensely, and this is so funny because this is exactly what's happened to me. You're being challenged above above what you think you can deal with, but yet you don't lose yourself, you don't lose your soul, and you push on and you get better. And I think that's what people need to see in movies versus what we've been basically fed. With Transformers and Iron Man,
It needs to be personalized. Like when you go, I go to movies only when something I connect with. Like if I'm supposed to go see a movie, I will know, and there has to be a personal connection with it. If I'm not moved emotionally, and if I'm not going to get some messages or some information in it, I'm not going to be entertained. Okay, there's a reason I go. And movies like that need to be respected more than a block. They're essentially doing is they're helping people. People are responding to them. They have a connection, and And instead of it being like, oh, we're going to make, $5 million or $10 million off this film, that's going to change because.
It is changing. In fact, you're so right because, Birdman, which I was able to see that, and that essentially exemplifies what a lot of creative people are having to deal with, and what they did that so well. I was so disappointed that Michael Keaton did not get an Oscar for his portrayal on it. But that exemplifies everything that those guys were writing about is what's really is happening in real time. And so I know there's a couple things. One, when things get economically difficult, people flood back in the movies. They go back to the movies because they need to escape. But they need to escape with something that they'll be able to take out of the movie and not forget the storyline 2 blocks away, which is what we all have been experiencing. You go to the movie and it's a little bit of excitement, etc. And then, what was that movie about? And you say, what was the thematic? I don't know. I mean, I would literally get confused because I couldn't describe what I had just seen. I just paid $8 or $10 to go see, and I think people there. I think that I was really happy to see, especially Birdman, get as many awards as it did, and because of that, and because it was not. If you watched it, it was really wonderful. And but Giant Rock, as far as the whole thing, the way computer graphics have improved, and the way things have occurred with visual and special effects, they've actually become more affordable. So, which again, it's not that we're not going to have them; it's that they're going to make sense to have them in the story. They're not going to overwhelm the characters and the protagonists and antagonists, which is what's happening now. So anyway, so it's funny that we're on this whole thing. I mean, but so when I take a look at what's happening now, I don't fear what's happening out there. I'm hoping that people are going to start looking at putting their money where their minds are versus where they're being told to stick their money in. And to buy, to be a part of this big conglomerate that has really been ingratiating just a few. And one of the beauties about art, and especially movies, which are moving pictures or a moving story, is that it's participatory. We can have a whole bunch of people participate in the enjoyment of a movie, and so that's part of the whole social change that I actually look forward to because, number one, regardless. Now, I used to run oil and gas companies, and Michelle, we've talked about this, and Kirk also. I mean, there have been different times we've done really well material, but I was always a misfit in that world. I ran oil and gas companies. Hey, I made oil discoveries out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, but I was always a misfit. I was not a part of the good old boy network per se. And so regardless of the financial rewards, I was an outsider. I never felt comfortable talking to these people because of, what are we doing? Well, we're exploiting resources out of Mother Earth. Hey, great. What an accomplishment! Put that on my tomb. I sucked the blood out of Mother Earth. I mean, so at any rate, one thing about with what I'm doing now is I'm being true to myself. I see people. I teach astrology also. To various people. One of my students is a 71-year-old woman, and she decided that she wanted to learn it, and I was very hesitant, but I said, wait a minute, this is something you can take in, these things that I do and know, and I have worked hard at learning and doing. You can take these into another lifetime. This is portable. This knowledge, information, being able to at least look at things differently is portable. And so now I do that every week for 1 hour. I've got a 71-year-old woman, and she's a very good student. It's really great.
Let me interrupt let me interrupt just a moment here. I just want to say to our listeners, that if you're hearing a choppy broadcast tonight, it's not because of my guests, how they're calling in. They're calling in by telephone, not Skype. And I believe it's only because, the only thing that I follow, if you want to call it astrology, is not astrology actually, is the cosmos, is that we're having, we started yesterday, I think it was, having solar flares and whatnot. Yes. So I think this possibly is the problem with going on the connection.
The breaks,
right, they're pretty strong. They're really, really strong.
Well, okay, let me add something too, because there was a Dr. Nelson, Commander Nelson, that worked for RCA, and he actually saw these same patterns that are occurring right now that actually were associated with enhanced solar flares. So that there's an you're actually talking about this whole astrological cosmology that occurs, this whole universal thing, and that explain when these planets get into a certain direction, especially in a very tight aspect, which they are right now, they do. They precipitate change in the cosmos, which, again, so is above, so is below. So if there's something going up in the universe, everyone wants to detach. This is what's amazing, is everyone wants to detach themselves from their community, from their earth, from the universe. We are just simply one, and and that's one of the things that metaphysics and some of the stuff that you really have to focus on. I don't care if you're doing yoga. You have to really understand the concept that we are all one, and we can do this you can do it merely by breathing. I mean, there's it's you can either complicate it like this with me, where you're looking at all these various chart navigation, or you can just simply lay back and breathe.
I think in reality, a lot of people are searching for what I call the raw, the organic, and the primal. Okay, we need to get back to that. Okay, and that's like connecting with the earth. Like Chad said, we're in it. This is the ride. Okay, and you can't detach yourself from it. You can't detach yourself from certain things, but your biggest and best thing to do is to get so raw, emotionally, mentally, and connect primally with everything. The energetic field that you're been trying to pretend that it doesn't exist. And it's simple. I'm always using the word simple, because the reason that the financial structure, the reason why everything is so complicated is because we've gotten away from simplicity. We've gotten away from feeling our feelings in a raw state. We're not, robots. We feel, and it's primal to feel, So we are connected to everything. The solar flare, I am on fire right now. This solar flare, like my hands are on fire. My whole body is on fire because I'm feeling the solar flare. I'm connected to it. So that is the space we need to get, and it's like back to the movie business, and back to the movie, The Birdman. That was a raw movie, okay? That was raw. That was primal. That was such beautiful information because it was truth, and that is the core that we need to get to. We need to get of humanity's truth. Why are we really here? And it's not to have abundance of everything. It's not about that. It's about our families. It's about our feelings. It's about how we interact with each other. It's about, expressing ourselves in a positive, constructive way. It's raw, it's primal, and it's about paying attention to yourself. When you interact with people, look how you're interacting. How am I acting? It's, don't. What's the other person's stuff is their stuff. Your stuff is your stuff. How are you responding? That's primal. That's raw.
Sure. We're definitely tracking, as far as molecularly, as far as within the field, and that's it's very comfortable once you get to a state. The thing that's occurring right now, there's literally we are seeing a war of the worlds, and it's and for the most part we are, in fact, we are proxy to other alien cultures and things like that. And it's amazing that people don't get this concept, is that that we are actually, yes, we are down here, our feet are on the earth, but we actually we have, not only do we have generational connections on a molecular level, we have an actual connection with various extraterrestrial entities also. And a lot of people don't know it. And one of the things that I think, and this is really what has been going on here, is that evil has been, or negativity has been prevailing here on planet Earth, and this has gone on through, strategic wars. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to take one look at Dick Cheney or George Bush, and you know that those people are Manchurian or they're being controlled by other entities. And they are in leadership positions. So, but there's a gong that gets hit, and it's unfortunately for a lot of the more lighter beings and people who are really striving to, raise this into this higher vibration, is that there are people, lower vibrational people, that are being used as weapons against you.
As puppets.
And they are, and with the ferocity and the vindictiveness, and it comes from everywhere. I mean, it really does. So you have to acknowledge that it's out there, and they literally want to draw everything backwards, draw everything down to this material density, and because they're so fearful of literally being left behind, and the more they try to pull you down, the further they get behind. But it's very hard, and you have to be vigilant, and these things occur. So I try to make people aware of it, and just say, hey, wait, and sometimes things, there's certain time periods in people's life. The only thing you can do is just go to bed at night, just and wake up.
Let me ask you a question to both of you here real quick. I have a person in the chat room here real quick, and she asked a question. I was telling her she could call in just when we open the phone lines, but I think I'm going to ask this question now. She says, aren't we all aliens, souls of recycled, repeated cycles?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. We are basically composite of various different lifetimes, and and incidentally, if you get into quantum physics, I'm not just talking to Kirk Spencer or Michelle Vaughn. I'm talking to Kirk Spencers. I'm talking to probably 1,000 Kirk Spencers that are basically spread all over the universe as far as that.
Right.
So we are, and right now the Kirk Spencer down here in this cosmology, this environment, is on on Blog Talk Radio, talking to Chad and Michelle about these kind of things. And certainly, she's absolutely right. We are. Yeah, we definitely are. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like what I used to say when people would ask me the question, how old are you? And I said, very old. And they said, what do you mean? And I say, well, I'm a little over 15,000 years old, but I lost count after 15,000.
Yeah, I always.
You're an old soul. Yeah.
Ancient.
Yeah, I do numerology charts also, and so I can always tell, an old soul by, I can just do their whole entire expression or the vibration. And surprisingly enough, I mean, this is something that I've absolutely have been amazed, is that I could do a chart, I could do a numerology chart, I could do a Hellenistic Western astrology chart, or a Chinese STEM chart, or I could do a Hindu Vedic chart. They always come out the same. It drives me crazy. I don't know how. They're complete different systems, different languages. All that they come say. So, but I think it's that they're dealing with vibrational, energy, and like a name, like for instance, Kirk Spencer, that has a vibration, as far as that. But I can always tell if I can get a name where there are very little, where all of the numbers are represented. In a name, like for instance, like the basic 1 through 9, and usually there's 11, and then there's a 22 in there somewhere. If all those are present, I know that that's an old soul, and I know that that person is not coming back. Okay, I know that this is the end of the road for that person. So there's certain things I can tell, with that. With an astrological chart, I can see a lot of things. I can see if there's a lot of activity around the four corners of the cardinals, the first, fourth, seventh, or 10th houses. I generally know from that this is their last action adventure on planet Earth, and that's how I can tell them. So I don't know how some people say, hey, listen, if you want to reincarnate back into I don't know. Everyone who ever does any past life therapy always comes back to Napoleon, or something. I don't. I always come back. I actually, in all my past life regression type thing. The last time I was a printer, and this is an amazing thing. I was actually a printer in England in 1820, which usually lifespans are longer. That was one. I wasn't Henry VIII. And then 1,000 years before, I was a teacher in Africa, and we all starved to death. And so I've been trying to think, well, why do we have these extra pounds, and how come everyone else has such better past life experiences? Why am I just so, I'm like very regular. I mean, I'm not Napoleon. I'm not anybody's really great. I've had these kind of mundane lives, so I just kind of laugh at everyone else in the whole thing. But I actually did that, and really when I went back, and I did this in part too because I had abduction experiences, and so I was being brought back. But what would happen is when I would go into regression, a lot of times I would skip past the abduction experience and zoom right back into a past life. And that's where it came back. I really specifically, and then in many cases with the abduction experiences, they were so painful for me, I wouldn't even let me go to that door because it was just too difficult for me at the time. In fact, one time I literally got off the couch and said, "Hey, I'm not doing this." As far as that. So one thing when people always say, "Oh yeah, why don't you just do this?" Past, I laugh at people because everyone says, "Well, just do past life regression, and you can do this," and yeah, sure, but it's like what's his name, Walton, Fire in the Sky. I forget what his first name was. I went to his premiere, and he was asked, why don't you do some regression therapy? Because I don't want to go back there. Which was really refreshing. It was genuine. He says, I don't want to go back there. Anyway, I digress. But that's funny.
That's okay. We're going to take a break here in about 3 minutes, but I just wanted talking a lot, and we've been for years, and we know each other very well. Chad and I, we've been friends for a couple of years now, and but getting back to the subject, is last week I was talking with Michelle, and I asked her a question about what do you feel about next week. I feel that there's something ominous coming on Tuesday. Well, today is Tuesday, and basically what I want to get into now, today when I got up, everything was fine, everything was beautiful. It turned out to be a wonderful day so far. So Getting into, and we'll probably just pull this up after the break because we only have 2 minutes to go, but today was a wonderful day, and even as Chad started out, and Michelle, you came in and you said, you just have to ride with it. You have to go with the flow. You and I have talked about that one before, both of us actually, all three of us. But just knowing how to go with the flow, not fighting it, not sitting up here worrying yourself to death, and that's what we're going to get into after we come back from the break. But what do you have that you can share with us, either one of you, for about another minute and a half?
Going with the flow. There's nothing better than that. The minute you try to go off of it is when the pain or the difficulty starts. I mean, I don't have any. I don't have a time or space ratio. I don't know how to explain that. I only live in this precise moment, and there's no there's no tomorrow for me. So I intuitively know each beat and each movement to make. And I live this really unconventional life. I mean, I never know where I'm going to end up. I never know what state or country I'm going to end up till the next day. I could be on a plane. I could be on a plane tomorrow again. You know what I mean? And I have no judgment or I'm flexible. It's like, whatever. Okay, what am I supposed to do today? Okay, got that. And when there's specific movements, like I got information yesterday that I was supposed to do something. Well, I said, okay, but I'm not ready to do that just yet. And then today, bam, there it was. And I knew exactly what the movement was. So it's just being in the flow and back to, until you've done all your healing work, you can't stay in that precise moment. I call it 0 point. 0 point ratio is when you're just at this pure space of movement. It's like being dropped in the ocean and just moving where the wave goes. And there's no resistance, there's no fear, there's no anxiety, there's just amazing peace and clarity. And to me, that consists of going with the flow. And it's a great ride. I mean, it's like I'm a student of life. That's what I'm here to do. I'm a student of life. And every single person is a gift, and they have something to bring to the plate of Michelle. Michelle has something to bring to the plate to them, and it's a beautiful flow, and it's precisely where every single person needs to get. And then we're all flowing as a collective, and the ride just gets so amazing.
Great. We're going to come take our break. We'll be back in 2 minutes, so go get your cup of coffee, whatever you need to be, and we will return in 2.
Hi, this is Al Sussman, the author of Changing Times, 101 Days That Shaped a Generation, published by Parading Press. And you're listening to the always interesting Kirk Spencer on K-Wave 6 Radio.
Thank you for joining us for today's show. Please visit the Freedom Talk Radio site for other great programs at freedomtalkradio.co.uk. To listen to our show archives, visit our website's homepage, then click on the YouTube icon, or just go to YouTube and enter K-Wave 6. That's the number 6. Follow K-Wave 6 Radio on Facebook and on Twitter, or on our website's blog. Advertisers, please check out our low advertising fees for worldwide advertising, all at kwave6radio.tk. That's Kwave6, the number 6, radio.tk.
Hi, this is Dr. Nick Leroy, and you're listening to K-Wave 6 Radio with its host, Kirk Spencer. I'm a holistic physician. I specialize in women's health, breast thermography, the alternative treatment of cervical dysplasia, and gastrointestinal disorders. And you can find me at drnick.com.
Hi, and welcome back to K-Wave 6 Radio. This is Kirk Spencer, your host, and today we have Chad Meek, who is a psychic astrologer. We have Michelle Vaughn, who is a dear friend, and, well, both of them are, and she is a master psychic and healer. Before we went on break, we were just talking about trusting your inner voice in one way. Also, we were talking about, or actually Michelle was saying, just living in the moment. And if I may add to that, living in the moment just means no fear, because you only have right now. Also, we want to continue on with what we see for the future and what is possibilities, and how can you, the audience, learn how to live through these without the fear, living in the now, and etc. So if you guys want to continue from there, I'm going to let Michelle and Chad continue from there.
Living simple is essentially what's going to get people through this. And what I mean by simplicity is when a person really gets into their healing work and their emotional release work, that's a getting rid of energy. That's a shedding of an energy. And once you start to do your inner work, it's surprising, because when I work with clients, or they're like, after they start doing from within, they will go to their house and they will start throwing things away that they've had in storage for like 10 years and never used. And it's funny how it starts to mirror. Like, we collect so many things, and then we continue to buy more things, and then later on we put those into boxes and store those someplace else. So once you start getting into this work, you start symbolizing on every single level. And it's amazing because I've seen it over and over and over again. And that's the key, is we don't need all the things that we have. We don't need, and also financially too, we don't need 10 credit cards. We don't need all these different financial institutions having threads connected to us. So that's another level of simplicity. And like Chad and we've talked about, the more you're connected to that financial system when it goes down, watch out. Like Chad talked about the last interview, like some of us are on the first floor, even less than that, who are only going to get our knees scraped. Well, those who are totally entwined financially, the ones that are way up there with the 1% of all of it, they're going to have the most hardest ride ever, because they have bought into the illusion and the power of the illusion, and that's going away. The simplicity right now is the key. Pay off some of your credit cards. Get rid of them. How many do you need? And look, make a list of what your shopping expenses are. Like how much do you really need, and what is really abundant? Because essentially, the thing that's going to get us through this is how much we love each other and the time we spend. And every single moment is precious. You can't buy that time. And so I'm always saying, be simple. Simplify your life, and those moments, you'll realize that is more valuable than anything that you can have. And it's you can't buy that. You can't buy it. It's not. You can't purchase that.
Let me ask a quickie question, because I need to direct this a little bit, because we do have a caller in queue. Chad, you can go ahead with what you want to say in just a moment, but I just want to ask, what are some of the things that you guys see as what you're pretty sure, if not positive, that we're going to have to deal with in the near future and the not too distant future?
Well, I mean, if you want to talk about like real estate, I mean, that is going to be a complete disaster.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just throw that completely out there, and it's going to happen everywhere. You literally are going to see things literally half price. I don't care where you're at. California especially. They're gonna go back that whole thing. We're gonna see, even though there's everyone vying for these homes, and of course I've heard every argument Chinese are buying up everything, etc. It's all nonsense. What's going to happen? In fact, right now there is a gigantic reset that's occurring where people are literally, even before this financial hiccup that's occurring as in real time as we speak, they refinanced 7 or 8 years ago during the last crisis, and now they can't afford. They're not making their payments, and so now all of this sick real estate and overpriced, highly inflated real estate is going to come back to the market. It's going to start in California, and it's going to blow up completely all over. The other thing too is China. China is the biggest economic farce and we actually did that to them. We inflated them like we inflated Japan during the 70s and 80s. It's kind of the hot potato. China, the Chinese miracle is over. They're going to literally have such tremendous problems because they bought into this materialistic world, and that's going to go. Everyone always keeps saying, "Oh yeah, I've got to buy gold or bitcoins and all that stuff." I agree. I think gold is a good investment, but watch it go down because generally that's the last thing that people have to sell. And if you have a revolver to your brain by some financier that's saying, "Hey, listen, you need to put up some sort of value to cover XYZ stock or whatever," what's going to happen is they're going to say, "Hey, what do you got?" "Well, I've got gold." What's going to happen? Gold's going to go on the market. It's going to dwarf the price. Now, what I've been telling my clients is you chase gold all the way down, and I actually think that gold will probably reach somewhere around 150 an ounce, which is people say, "Oh, you're nuts," et cetera, et cetera. I've heard that before. Also, when I was telling the same people that the dollar is going to scream up, which I said last summer, I tried to get people to get long on the dollars. Well, it's grown exponentially faster than 34 years. So, actual dollars and cash. There's just a weird thing as far as the actual dollars, not bonds. Actual dollars are going to appreciate in your hand just like they have, and it's just a weird phenomenon, and I have a lot of technical and all that stuff I don't want to get into. It's just going to go up. The other thing too is everything is going to come down. Oil's going to be sub $20. I actually looked at some charts, both astrological and technical charts that show oil at $14 a barrel, which would actually make gasoline. You get 42 gallons to a barrel. Theoretically, you should see 60-cent gasoline. So we're in such a severe. Everything has been hopped up and inflated for the last 30 years by the powers that be. Well, all that is going to go away. Now, again, everyone says, "Oh yeah, great price, et cetera, et cetera." But the thing also too is your wages are going to go down, and the economy is going to be a lot different. Now, through this 4 or 5, and I'm looking till about 2020, and I would think that when people say, "Well, where's the bottom?" My guesstimate, and I feel pretty comfortable. Others have said 3 years. I'm saying 2020. You're going to see the bottom. But during this interim, now when everything goes to hell, what's left? And you always have to think the unthinkable, okay? And we're seeing it right now. Since the economy and the reason for governments is prosperity and protection, et cetera. So there's no prosperity. So what are they going to throw at all of us? They're going to throw protection, and with protection comes war. Now we are going to see some very interesting things going on, and that's going to dramatically affect a lot of people, especially in Europe. It's really not going to be good. So that's what I'm seeing from that. And please don't get depressed. Listen, all of this stuff is part of the whole part of your soul. It's going to be a good thing. And the thing about it, I've got a little secret for everyone else, including myself. We're not a part of the people who are participating in all this grandiose prosperity and haven't been for, say, 20 or 30 years. Our life this is going to actually free us up from those eventual monsters which we're going to replace with philosophical, with holistic, whole person viewpoints that are going to build things on stronger foundation, not on castles of sand. So we're going to go through a rebirthing, and it's going to be good. But again, everyone says, "Yeah, sure, Chad, it's going to be good." It will. It just will.
It's all our perception and our comprehension, and what our perception of what good is, and what our perception is of what difficulty and bad is. Okay, that is the real deal here. It's like when you can shift your perception regarding that, you will start to see the bigger picture.
You'll become free, and you'll become real. You'll become truly invincible, and that's one thing I think you're getting at. When you put that stuff together, what can they take away from you? What can they do to you?
Yeah,
they can do nothing. Yeah.
Nothing.
So then you can be you. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You get to the core essence of your true soul, your true spirit. Like I don't even have a car. I don't even have to worry about gas. Okay, I have literally liquefied everything. I don't have a credit card. Okay, I'm disappearing from the system. Okay, and that is my idea. I do not want to be caught in the system that's dying. My mail, all my mail goes to my parents' house. I essentially don't exist, and I like that. And that is essentially what I am doing. I am disappearing from a system that's dying.
Yeah. Actually, about 2 months ago, Michelle and I were talking. It's probably 2 months, maybe 3 months ago. Michelle and I were talking about something. Basically, it was she posted something on her Facebook wall. It says, everything is as it should be. And the conversation that we had, in short, was I always had this problem about what we can change and what we have to accept. Some things, and I hate using this word, but some things are just preordained. Kind of like what Chad was talking about earlier in the show about these are the planets, this is the aspects, and there is some choice in it, but this is what your choices you're going to have to deal with. And that's what we're talking about now. It's just, this is what's going to happen. How do you deal with it?
Right.
Yep.
Right, exactly. But I'm also going to share this because I know this to be true. There will be some assassinations coming up, okay? Some of these government officials will be assassinated, unfortunately. That will take place, which will also cause great government chaos. So it's not only financial, it's government power chaos. So you're looking at many, many threads that are just going to explode. I mean, we already saw a little bit that the gentleman getting his face cut. Well, that's just the beginning. Okay, so there's the other pieces, bam, 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 that I've seen. So you're going to have a lot of interesting twists, a lot of interesting things, and the more you can detach yourself from the illusion, the better off you're going to be. You're going to be like at a movie theater with your popcorn and your soda, and you're just watching the movie go down. Okay, you're going to be the outsider. You're going to be the outsider now, looking in, but you're not going to be in. Okay, you're not. And the people that are in are going to have the hardest ride because they're going to believe it's all real. It's
right.
Real.
They're going to buy into it. Yeah, right. It's not real. They're going to buy an illusion.
Right.
In the nightmare. So, I think that it would. I just thought I saw a picture of Hillary Clinton up there, trying to explain away, what happened with the 30,000 deleted emails. As far as that, when you talk about the illusion, and her first words is, "You got to trust me on this one."
Right. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Why not?
Why now?
Yeah.
Why now?
Right. I'm not illicit. And all these people. I mean, she's almost made it. As far as the whole thing, and then this thing blows up, and even all these various politicians that think they're going to get away with the status quo and with their various ideas, et cetera, and the way the old games played. I tell you this, that's over. And I actually think
everybody,
right. But
nobody's
primarily
getting away with it anymore.
Right. The politicians, as far as okay, what are you really going to do? Well, the game is, and Obama played this thing extraordinary. In fact, I predicted he was going to be president. It was one of my predictions, and I don't fault him. And all the liberals were so dismayed as far as when he went to move closer to the center and started throwing all the left-leaning liberals under the bus. Well, I knew exactly what that with his chart and that with what he was going to do. I knew he was going to do that. He's been doing it his whole life. And the amazing thing about it is that the career of the politician, that whole profession of the politician, that's one of my predictions, that is going to dissipate because people will not tolerate this. We will not tolerate 5 lobbyists to each congressman. We're not going to tolerate that anymore. This system is going to implode. It's going to leave a vacuum, and it's actually our responsibility to actually fill that. And it's going to offer a lot of opportunities with free thinkers and people with very, very, revolutionary and interesting ideas. And I think a lot of us who have been shut out of the system and have been, I believe that a lot of us are going to get our chance to basically make the improvement, to use the primal first cause, the God source, to basically channel in this whole thing that are actually going to help the people. And I really see this, but this would never be available with the current lock on the mind, spirit, and souls of the world's population that have been driven into this absolute form of many psychopaths that would do anything for a dollar bill or a piece of meat, so to speak. That paradigm is changing, and this is the only way that this could change. And this is, a lot of people say, "Well, go ahead."
Well, timing's everything. I mean, everything is a mathematical equation. So the fact that we're actually on this radio station discussing what we're discussing, and there are many conversations on radio stations nowadays that are discussing support and being there for each other. So the reason we're doing this is for that very reason. Like you said, we would have been shut out. Like 11 years ago when I woke up, nobody was talking about this stuff. If they were, it was David Icke and Stuart Swidlow and some of the other people, and it was very, very quiet to a certain degree. And now look at it, and there's people are swamping to hear this because the timing is right. It's right. Humanity is right. They are the ridiculousness and the chaos and the confusion has been seared into their consciousness now. They want something different because, we did that. We know where that all goes. And so they're hungry for truth. They're hungry for something else.
They are hungry for truth. And again, I like to place various, just so I can place the planet Pluto, especially in Capricorn, with very difficult aspects. What happens with Pluto is everything gets divulged. So everything, all the rackets that everyone's been up to, including Hillary, but look at Brian Williams and look at what's his name on Fox News. They're all catching him in all of these lies as far as, Bill O'Reilly with his thing. I mean, every step of the way. So everything is being revealed. Everything is being divulged as far as out there. So that's taken a lot of time. Now, there's 2 components. There's the one of being able of having it divulged, and then it's the person on the other end that has to pay attention and really be aware of it, because most people will choose. A lot of people, and this has been going on, but less and less are occurring now, have chosen to look the other way. Well, this is the aroma and the stench of the smell is becoming so bad. Everyone says, Yeah, this is what this is, right? Yeah, and so that is happening. And I don't listen like Brian Williams and Bill O'Reilly. I mean, it must be a very interesting thing because they literally believed in their own press clippings. They literally had convinced themselves through this illusion that they were experiencing this thing, and so it's as big a surprise to them because they are so far and bought into this illusion. This play or nightmarish illusion that they literally believed it as their own, which is an amazing thing. And we've seen this through history with Hitler, with Mussolini, with Chairman Mao. I mean, this is part of the. I think that we're coming into a point, and it is, and the road is going to be rocky. I mean, I don't listen. I'm not saying any of this transition is going to be easy, but at least we have a wedge. The people, the free thinkers, and the spiritual have a wedge inside. We're going to get because of a vacuum. We're going to be able to step into this whole thing because those people are literally are not, they're pariahs. They're literally eating each other up, in their own stuff. So we're the I guess we're the unblemished. And so as long as we get tied up in that, all that nonsensical stuff, then we can make meaningful changes by being us.
Yeah, and there's so much love,
Michelle,
and there's so much support.
Go ahead.
Are you guys ready to take phone calls?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I have a person who's been waiting on here for the last 20 minutes. She's very patient, and she's been here since the beginning of the show, so I'm going to bring on Jennifer, see if Jennifer is there. Jennifer, are you there?
Hello.
Hi there, Jennifer.
Hello, Jennifer.
Hello. Hi, Jennifer.
How are we all doing?
Wonderful. How are you?
Great.
Fantastic. Good. Hey, so, yes, I have been waiting on hold for a while, and so a lot of different things have been coming through my mind, but particularly when Chad started speaking after the break, I get this aha, and I wanted to first just ask you to speak about my aha and really then ask my question. So when Chad was talking about the housing market and whatnot, the first thing that popped in my mind was HARP, H-A-R-P, the housing, what is it?
Realtor.
Housing Affordable Refinance Program.
Right.
Financed through the government. But
HARP.
what else is HARP? What also is HARP is H-A-A-R-P, which is the High Frequency Active Oral Research Program. And I thought it peculiar, and that just popped in my head, and I thought maybe I would see what y'all have to say about that, but that's not my real question.
Okay, all right, good. Okay, good. Well, what's your real question? Do you want to get to your real question, or do you want me to answer and talk about that?
Sure. My real question is, or proposal, or what have you, I've heard often, I think, Chad, you were speaking a lot at the interim about friends and family and staying close and connected. And, in fact, I have just asked my partner of a number of years to move out, and actually she moves out tomorrow with her biological, but our 15 and 11-year-old boys. And we are so disconnected spiritually that this has been something that has been coming and coming and coming and coming. And it's quite, well, we are in the middle of it. But I find it sad that this is happening.
It is sad. It's sad. You have to feel it.
I'm still feeling love. I have so much love towards the entire situation. But then I hear, like, when you guys were speaking tonight, there's so much fear that's, like, I think, oh, I'm about to build this huge, beautiful vegetable garden because I always had beautiful vegetable gardens. So I'm going to build another one in my new house. And, like, well, what if, like, the power grid goes down?
Right, what if
I can't go to Kroger,
don't worry about the what if.
There's been a lot of fear-based supplements in this conversation, and I feel negative about it.
Right. Well, let me basically get in here and explain a few things. Number one, you already know what has to be done. Okay, and essentially what you're doing is you're going through. You already know it. As far as that, and this is actually part of a cathartic part of your life. This is part of the things, and it's a part of the birthing process. But through as your yourself is coming out, and this is going to happen. Yes, sure, there is fear, but also too, I mean, when you talk about you'll be creating a vacuum, but somebody will fill it. So this is not the end of the world as far as that goes. And the right person who are symbiotic with you cannot show up unless there's room and space made available for that person. So don't fear as far as with this stuff goes. You're going to be managed. You're going to do whatever. Even if and here's another thing too. Even if you had to downsize, as far as some of your expectations, trust me, it's not all that bad. It really is what Michelle was saying earlier as far as your perceptual feeling, as far as what's going on. It's just how you look at it. I mean, so, you don't need. I've gone through some various downsizing myself as far as that stuff goes. But really,
I'm not downsizing at all. I'm the monetary.
You're upsizing.
Basis.
You're updoing. Okay, so, but that's material stuff. Those are things. Yeah. And as far as the big vegetable garden. Hey, I'm all for it. I'll come share whatever vegetables you create for us. So
I'll even barter some.
Don't fear.
Michelle, do you have
fear.
anything to? I'm not in fear. I'm very excited, and I think that Father Source and Mother Gaia are creating exactly what we need right now, and I think there are more and more people. I've only known about this Blog Talk Radio for a few weeks, and I think particularly that people are looking. Hasn't man, as far as we have in recorded history, man hasn't always looked to the stars and said, "What is this?" And most certainly, man has obviously known a little bit more than we did in the past. We look at Stonehenge and we go, "What the fuck? What? What is Stonehenge?
Right.
What is this? What are these monuments? What are
Mayans where
doing?
They come from?
What are these people doing? Why are all these people doing all these things back in, carbon dated times that are
even prehistory,
quote unquote, right, where people couldn't communicate. So we've lost something that I think we're getting back to.
We've lost our connection.
Jennifer. And I when you talk about the banking system, don't you think that the cabal is leaving? Don't you think these people in the 1% are being retrained right now?
People? Yeah, everything's shifting.
I think the psychopaths are literally killing each other. I wrote on a blog earlier as far as this. Everyone assumes that Germany and the U.S. and that Germany loves France and NATO and all this stuff. It's just like competition seems to be a natural occurrence as far as this. Just because they're part of one group doesn't mean they get along. And it's the same. This is the way the universe works. But one thing I wanted to get in here because I thought it was really important because I thought this is what happened to me. Okay, I cut out all sugar. Okay, I cut out all sugar and I cut out all flour. And you know what happened? We didn't have any trash. That's what happened. I mean, literally, our carbon imprint went down to nothing. And I was I was more satisfied, more full. I wasn't hungry, et cetera, et cetera. And I did those two things. Now, okay. So even though that sounds really oversimplistic as far as that whole thing, what if the whole world literally cut out sugar, which is in everything, and went to some real basic foods, the simplistic, more or less, like you're growing a large vegetable. What if you're able to live off of your vegetable, and your carbon imprint and things like that, if you were able to do that in a very mindful and meaningful way, how good would that be for the overall our environment, et cetera, et cetera? And not only if you did it, what if a whole bunch of people did that, okay? And that's what they did. Now, again, it's perception. Obviously, you like gardening. My wife likes gardening also. You love it. And so that's really a neat thing, and you can find enjoyment in doing it. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be doing it. But I keep looking at this it's all a perceptual thing, and I think that there's a really good content as far as that stuff goes. When one door closes, another one opens for you. I just know that's going to occur. The banking system and all these people that have been controlling, they've literally made themselves mentally ill, and they literally are. I mean, eventually they're going to fall off. How can people live in a conscious world with that kind of insanity going through their brain? They're going to blow up, and I mean, they just will. I think that this common sense and this
maybe and maybe not, Chad. Maybe they have been trained and retrained and retrained and retrained over their soul lives to be exactly what they are, and maybe
they are.
But you're not understanding energy, but you're not understanding vibration. It doesn't matter if they're trained over and over and over again. What's happening is the frequency on the entire planet is shifting. So
they're not shifting with it.
They're not shifting with it. So it doesn't even matter. It's like you're either on the boat or you're not. It doesn't matter what your training process was. It is what it is.
The other thing too is I have Great Danes. I have dogs, and they're specially bred dog, and I absolutely love them. I mean, they're just a wonderful dog. But you know what? They live 8 to 10 years. That's their lifespan. And I also have horses, and in various time periods of my life, I've owned thoroughbreds and quarter horses. I've campaigned them, and they're so crossbred. And it's this huge incestuous type thing. They're crossbred for this high performance, but they can easily twist off and have to be disposed of as far as that. And I think with all this genetic stuff that you're referring to, and being retrained, remodeled, et cetera, I actually think that they're literally. What comes to mind is they're literally being bred off the face of humanity, because that doesn't work. It really doesn't work.
I think they're being given a chance, one way or the other. And I mean, your beautiful Great Danes that I'm sure cost a lot of money. That is playing God. I mean,
it is.
That's artificial creation.
Yeah,
you see these dogs that. What their hair grows back into them, or they don't shed, or what? I don't understand. I mean, that's not what Father intended. And so,
no, it wasn't. And I have I have my weaknesses as far as that, and that's what I did. And I honest to God don't know why. I had kind of
crystal blue eyes. Don't get you.
I know, and one has a blue eye, but I guess I had a weakness. The other thing too is I kind of BS myself in thinking, well, these are I had 27 acres, and I thought, okay, these will, and they did chase the coyotes away. So I was trying to get some sort of practical use of this. Now I'll walk down the street or crowd, and now what they are is a photo op, because everybody and their mother wants to get in the picture of these two Great Danes, one with the blue eye. So and I digress. But again, they're bred. Their lifespans. It's a 20-year. They're not a 20-year dog. They're 8 to 10-year-old dog, and because I fell in love with with the idea of having these big dogs, I'm going to pay a severe price eventually down. I know it. I mean, I'm saying, oh my gosh, there's always an up and a downside as far as with everything we do. That's part of life, but again, I know what you mean, and but don't fear, Jennifer. Don't fear
I don't. I'm actually in the most non-resistant state of potential and inconsequential learning and
nice.
I know that
it sounds like you're in the flow. You're in the flow.
I'm supposed to do something here. I know it. Yeah. I know after my sister was adopted 9 years prior to my birth because I'm the miracle lesbian child, and then 15 years later, 15 years ago, I basically died. I died in a car wreck 15 years ago, and so I know that I have a very specific role in this life, and
good. You're aware of that. That's wonderful.
So I don't know. It kind of offset me. Like I heard a lot of negativity when you guys started, when Chad started talking, and I was like, this sounds like scary. And he was telling his clients about gold and stuff, and it just kept hitting me in the gut, like.
Well, I think
I
think it's perception. I think it's perception. It's all how you really look at it. It's like death and rebirth. That it's like you watch something die. Is that fear, or is that, it's part of how nothing lasts forever. This was going to end. So there's no fear. There's actually a lot of excitement, because it's like once this death has occurred, wow, we have
we don't have to reincarnate anymore after this.
We also have the responsibility, and we also have the creativity to make it totally different. That's exciting. We have a brand new slate, and we know how it didn't work before, and we certainly aren't going to repeat those patterns. So I look at it as, this is the most phenomenal time to be alive, because we get to see the birth of a brand new planet, a brand new way of being. It's exciting.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Michelle, because that's really, it's one thing you've got to hang on to as far as this stuff, to see this birthing, because it is a good thing. And listen, I've always been amazed how the system has been able to continue to reinvent itself. The various refinancing, the system collapsed in 2008. I'm always amazed how this, comeback comes back. Oh, we'll just buy back more, and everything seems print more money, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And all of a sudden, and I've always been, and I go, listen, this is not good. Because if eventually, like right now, we're at $18 trillion as far as. We're $18 trillion in debt as far as actual debt, but there's really $500 trillion, which is unfunded liability.
Right.
Our system is this is untenable. This is unsustainable. That's why, as far as when you said growing a garden, hey, listen, I actually think that is a gold mine. A garden is a gold mine, because it actually you can hand somebody a tomato, or you can hand life, or you can help somebody with some vegetables.
Exactly. Yeah. Barter system. We're going to get back to the barter system. Hey, you give me some of your vegetables, and I'll give you of what my talents are. Okay? We don't need money. We don't need money anymore. And that way, we get to know each other better. We get to connect.
You'll draw a community.
As
you definitely will draw a mercantile community together, which versus basically driving past somebody to work
or
not talking to your neighbor. It'll actually become. And this is one of the things too. And I've looked at, like, for instance, as example, Social Security, which is, and I don't mean to become Norman Rockwell or any of the other homespun type thing, is, when Social Security appeared, before then, it was just a standard thing where you were to take care of your parents. So you had the connection from the old to the new children being born. So that string was continued. Well, you have government, you have socialism come in, take care. So what happens is, instead of cohesion, you have separation. In fact, so instead of watching, you put people in homes. And so that was the world. That was the whole experiment that went on. I think again, this is something that you're probably going to, and again, people are going to look back. And one of the things that one of the characters in my screenplay, I put my grandmother. We call her Fat Grandma, but as far as the book, and she got used to the name, but as far as that, but all the kids call her. But one of the things she did, she was in the Depression. She never let anybody who came to her door, if they asked her for food, she never ever would refuse anybody for food. Now, can you imagine, as far as your karmic as far as fulfilling any kind of karmic debt, and basically fulfilling your own thing. What kind of person does that?
Yes, I can imagine all of that. That's exactly what my grandmother was. My parents
a saint
were raised and they became successful themselves magically, but they were raised in rural Mississippi. Had no running water, electricity. They used outhouses, and what my parents both tell me is my dad's passed now, but we had a lot of food, and you could never go to Mama's to Minnie Dudley's house and ever show up without a big welcoming plate of food, because she had plenty of it. She had shelves of canned goods and rows of everything you could possibly grow, and that was her wealth, and she appreciated it. But
and it was simple. It was a simple thing. Simple then.
Down there in Mississippi.
And it wasn't too long ago.
I really hate to interrupt this, but we need to. I know we're having a great time on this conversation, but we need to open up the phone lines for other people. I had one person that left from Virginia, and that person left.
So all right, Jennifer.
You're welcome. Bye.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night. I wasn't actually asking Jennifer to leave, but basically, if you want to call in, we have about another 15 minutes to go. The number is 347-677-0812. Again, the number in the U.S. and Canada, 347-677-0812. Or you can call in via the Skype icon on the Blog Talk Radio page. Just click on the icon and follow the prompts to talk to our guests, Chad Meek and Michelle Vaughn. Then Jennifer left. I wasn't actually asking her to leave, but that's okay. Anyhow, actually, you did say something, Michelle, that I wanted to hit on here because you said nothing lasts forever.
Yeah.
Turn that into something that we can relate to right here, either one of you or both of you.
Well, nothing ever lasts forever because we're students of life. If everything remained the same, what would be the purpose of even existing? Okay? What would it be? Okay, the reason things never last is because of growth and information. Every succession has information, but if that just keeps going and going and going, there's no reason for it. So just as birth and death and rebirth and death, I mean, it's just a constant. And in that movement, there is constant information and intelligence that continues. So the point of life is really, what is the point of life? I mean, why? What is it? If it isn't about rebirth and death, you know? I mean, I certainly don't want to keep doing this pattern over and over and over again. I mean, really? Come on now. You know, it just, there's a boring aspect to it. It's not interesting anymore. Our souls are ready to move to the next level, you know, and certainly there's a lot that don't want that, you know, and there's more that do. So the ones that do, consciously we shift. Okay? So that's mathematics, that's physics. You know, you have to keep growing. You know, you have to keep wanting more knowledge and more information. That is essentially what life is. That's what Source is. Source created this entire thing for what reason? Just to entertain itself? I mean, really, think about that. Are we just here to entertain that?
Well, one of the things, too, is, you know, and this is the way I look at it, and, you know, of course, with some of the, you know, this is in, you know, biblically as far as the prodigal son, they try to put these various motifs. The other thing is Odysseus and Homer's Odyssey, as far as, you know, how they go out and experience life, et cetera, and bring the information back. You know, the whole subject and object world that we're in fact, the Big Bang is what occurred. Was the whole separation is that the whole sense that something was missing. And so, therefore, it's separated. So you had object and subject. And so through that, you had the birthing process as far as between that, and that is what experience is. And that's essentially what we're a part of. We're all these little points of light out there gathering information, gathering experience, because it's all holographic anyways. We're just gathering information for this. People think, we're these weird creatures with slots in our forehead where we look out, with these little eyes as far as this stuff goes. But really what we are is we're feelers, we're sensors. We're bringing back information to the primal source. And that's something that, that's what we do. And we do that through various life experiences. And the truth of the matter is it's like ice cream. We all, most of us love ice cream, I guess, as far as, but if you eat too much ice cream and if you eat it every night, after a while, ice cream isn't any good anymore. And so, this is the bitter and sweet thing. And that's why people shouldn't be, we have such an emphasis on success and failure at the expense of experience. Because it's about the experience. The success and failure, it's going to take care of itself. And people who are, when you're successful, you don't notice it. I mean, as far as that. What you do notice is when you're a failure and it makes you think and focus. So in many respects, in the course of a life, it's not just about being successful. However, that seems to be the model, and that you're basically, you're basically, memorialized if you're a success, and you're demonized if you're a failure. And it has nothing. Yeah.
Well,
that's a perceptual look. Yeah.
Right. Success and failure are both an experience. Okay.
That's right.
And
there's no difference. There's no difference.
The same thing.
Yeah, right.
It's the same thing. Yeah. You learn from both experiences. So are they really a failure? No, they're not.
Well, let me ask you this, Michelle, and I'll ask Kirk this also. What have you learned the most? Have you learned the most from your successes or your failures? And
both.
I'll just ask it.
Yeah, I think both, and it's all perception. It's how you view success and how you view failure.
Well, I wouldn't be as proficient, and I'm not patting myself on the back as far as. In fact, I'm one of the few people astrologically have actually called out. In fact, with this particular thing here, but if it wasn't for the fact that through my various failures. Process, and it's just a process. I couldn't get it, so I'd have to try this, or that, and so I could get this, so I could see this, so I could widen my perception. I would not be here talking about this information tonight had it been for my successes. Had I been able to walk out the door and predict the precise moment to pick a gazillion-dollar lottery, my perceptual ability with the craft that I do would not be would not be as developed, and my psychic senses would not be as developed. So that is what I'm trying to tell, as far as this. But materially, everything has gotten upside down. And we take these people and we make them these. We try to, like Donald Trump, many people, lower vibrational, they demigod him. They think he's the Mr. Wonderful. And I look at him and I'm thinking, you are a cartoon character, dude. There's no way. Of course, my awareness is different. But again, what I'm saying is that we're in that upside down world where right is wrong.
Well, right.
Wrong is right. And $18 trillion.
I've been fortunate to experience both sides. Okay.
Yeah.
When me and my husband became multimillionaires overnight, okay, I got to see how people viewed me from the outside in. I mean, the perception of my people that knew me changed completely. I had people who wanted to hang out with me all the time. I mean, it just was the wildest ride, and I never changed. Money doesn't change me. I just was blown away by it, and like the demigods and people who have all this are looked upon because the ideas have taught them that that's what's important. And I didn't care when I started going through stuff. I gave so much stuff away. I mean, literally, I used to have so many watches. I mean, I had every kind of huge. I could name them all. GP, Gerard Piquois, Roger Dubuis. I had every massive watch there was. And at the end, I started giving them away. I would give
I'm
like
so out of it. I didn't recognize any of them. So I guess I've never.
Yeah, well,
I was worth a few $1,000,000, but I don't remember. I had a Rolex one time.
Yeah, well, no, this is higher up. A Rolex is considered a citizen.
I was slumming.
Watch.
Right, and I felt embarrassed to watch it. I always thought that somebody was looking, and what's so funny is. Yeah, this is the reality check that I had because.
Yeah,
but here's an example. I bought a brand new Corvette. I made it and then I had this very young, good looking girl follow me. Of course, I was married at the time. She followed me all the way home. And I thought I felt pretty.
Because you
I felt pretty good. Well, I thought it's because you thought I was a very handsome, guy. But the illusion of that whole thing came to
exactly.
And I pulled him into my house. And I said, the bottom line is that you like me for my car.
Exactly. It's crazy.
Yeah. So
when I had my Porsche, okay, I got my windows blacked out. Okay, I didn't want anybody to see me in my car. Okay, and it was wild. I was in my little people pod. People would drive up to see who's in my car because it's L.A., it's Beverly Hills. People thought I was a celebrity. I didn't like that. I bought my car because I loved racing. Okay, I loved Porsche, and I got really involved in it. I used to go down to the racetrack and I used to race. Okay, so that was me. Okay, that was not the perception of me. What people saw me was a whole other thing. So I got my windows blacked out. And because you're in L.A., you can get pulled over because your windows are blocked off. But if you have a SAG card, which I was an actor, I was in the Screen Actors Guild. Actors in Hollywood can legally get their windows as black as possible because they don't want to cause car accidents. So literally, you couldn't even see me inside, and I legally had it done. And I loved it. I didn't have to deal with all the nonsense or being followed or people doing that. It was not my agenda. It was not what I wanted. I was a 12-year-old girl. I loved racing, and when I got into the position, I bought a car. That was me. But the perception of everybody else was so different. And it's really nice not living like that. My life is really beautiful and really simple, and I love it. And I'm more happier now than when I had all that stuff, and I had abundance. So point is just it doesn't matter. People's perception regarding what they think is making it and financial God-like is over. That's over. It's not even interesting anymore.
Let me answer a question because we only have about 4 minutes to go. Chad, you did ask both of us questions, so let me answer this question. I'm going to go right along with Michelle. I learned both from successes and from failures. I learned more from failures, but I learned a lot from my successes as well. One of the examples I'm going to give in the last few minutes that we have here is that one of the things that I'm learning, and this is part of the show that I wanted to bring up, was that through my conversations, through meditation, however anybody wants to put it, or prayer, I don't care. The title doesn't make any difference to me. But through my conversations with our Creator, I get told that this is what I should do. And when I do it, I learn from, hey, that actually works. That's cool. And I continue that. But sometimes I do forget to do certain things. And when I don't do them, the reminder comes up and goes, hey, you didn't do it, so guess what? This is why you're having this problem. So this is my suggestion to people, is to get to know your Creator, get to know them on a personal basis. Meditation, yes, that's wonderful. It clears the mind, but after you clear the mind, then what? I have a conversation. Some people I know say, oh, you can't have a conversation with your Creator. Wrong. You can, and that should be your ultimate goal. And as far as I'm concerned, at least that's my opinion. That's my way of living my life. So learn to have that conversation with your Creator. Become one with your Creator, and that's how you're going to walk through it. Not through fear, not through apprehension about, the future's going to be so scary. Well, yeah, there's going to be some things that are going to scare you to death, but how do you live through it? Are you going to live by fear? Or are you going to live by living that moment to moment, as Michelle and Chad have said, and even Chad has said, hey, you're presented with this as the problem. Here's your choices. So with that, we only have 2 minutes to go. You guys have anything? Well, actually, we only have 1 minute to go because I have to do the closer. Anything that you guys want to say before we close off the show?
Well, what I'd like people to do, I would love people to go to my, I update my Facebook page. I don't blog, but what I do is I update my Facebook page at Giant Rock, the movie, Facebook, and go there periodically and see what's going on. I kind of give, prognostication as far as what's going on, commentary on what's going on there. So please go there, and of course, if you get a chance, like me, and of course, if you send me a friend, I friend all the listeners and people that are interested in what I'm doing, both on the movie, and of course, if anyone has the interest in helping us move along any which way that they think they can, I'm always all ears. It's funny, out of the mouth of babes. Sometimes I really have heard a lot of really great suggestions. So there you can email me, chad@giantrockthemovie.com. I would really appreciate to hear your thoughts, and I hope to get some feedback as far as this show and other shows, and welcome for any kind of comments. So from that, I'll just kind of sign off and let you guys go.
Okay, and Michelle?
Oh, well, goodness. I'm just so grateful that there might be a few people that actually want to hear what I have to say. I'm always in gratitude, and I'm just so happy that I have an opportunity to do this and to share information that hopefully someone will find a piece that resonates with them, that they can connect with. I mean, that is essentially what means the most to me. If I've got something to say that
we have 10 seconds to go,
stirs something in you, then then I did what I came here to do. That's how I feel. I did what I came here to do. And so thank you for listening.
Thank you for being a part of our listening audience. Be sure to keep up with our shows and our podcast via our blog, on Twitter, and in Facebook. All links, including our RSS feed, are available at kwave6radio.tk. That's kwave6, the number 6, radio.tk. All the best.